you're telling me that you're going to do this interview and in the background you're going to have a football match on the telly?
What brings you to Aberdeen versus Celtic?
Yeah, Ali, why Aberdeen? And so,
right, captain for the club.
Let's talk about Gregg Wallace. You know, I think he probably deserves his fate. It's not really the centre of the story anymore. I want to talk about the BBC.
Oh, your screen has frozen, Kevin.
I have frozen?
Oh, you're back in the room.
Back in the room. I think you're supposed to freeze to me, not the other way around. Right, OK. Well, first of all, what's your take on Gregg Wallace? Does he deserve all this?
That remains to be seen, doesn't it? If he has... the most serious thing to be said here is he's alleged to have groped three women. And if he has done that, then he deserves everything that's coming his way. We've reached a fairly balmy stage of this story now, though, that it's been brought up at Prime Minister's Question Time. And I also watched the BBC News last night, and it led on Gregg Wallace ahead of what the Taliban have just done to women in Afghanistan, which has banned them from medical studies. And in the grand scheme of things, that is a lot more significant than anything 2 minutes has done on a television show in Britain.
2 minutes. I mean, he is... Look, this is one thing we can confidently predict. You won't be seeing Gregg Wallace on television again, apart from his mea culpa on Newsnight. Maybe with Kirsty Walk, you never know. I doubt it somehow. And she left anyway. But he's gone. And the reason he's gone is he is definitely a victim of cancel culture. He's been cancelled ruthlessly along the lines of the rigid system. Somebody comes out mysteriously to say, oh, when I was on MasterChef, he was pretty inappropriate. Another woman, yes, that happened to me. Before you know where you are, you've got 13 of them. Then you have Kirsty Walk making a statement, you know, on telly. And by yesterday, you had Melanie Sykes saying, I was so traumatised by my experiences with Gregg Wallace that was what made me quit my TV career. And what those...
It was going so well up until then, wasn't it?
That's why she quit Panorama, I'll tell you. This is what she was traumatised by. Apparently, he went up to her and said, because she used to be a model, he said, do models even eat food? OK. And then he went on, and this is the real shocker. He said, do you know what, Mel? Being on MasterChef might be good for your TV career. That was it. That was it. She was so traumatised by these remarks that she quit television. And then to add to the bandwagon phase of the cancellation programme, Vanessa Feltz films a special video to say, oh, look, Gregg Wallace, terrible man, the way he behaves in front of her. Then she relays this story of alleged sort of sexual innuendos made not to her, but to someone else. So the bandwagon stage is underway and hurtling along at full pelt. So he's gone because of this. Now, so in some respects, I've got sympathy for him. But in other respects, you know, I've heard stories. And, of course, we must stress that Gregg denies that he's done anything wrong. But I've heard stories that, you know, his behaviour went beyond what you might call bawdy office banter, that he did upset women. These are the allegations, that he upset women, and that's not acceptable. So in that respect, to some extent, if these allegations are true, he does deserve his fate.
Yeah, exactly. Justice must take its course. But when it gets to the stage of Labour MPs getting involved, because they know it's a very easy hit, and they also know it's a distraction, and they're actually using this thing. So we don't ask too many questions about Louise Haigh suddenly leaving the government and being a convicted fraudster. The picture becomes very murky as soon as politicians get involved, and they really do need to butt out so we can actually get to the bottom of this thing and find out whether he has behaved pretty atrociously. if the allegations are true. But otherwise, well, crikey, then we really are in complicated territory.
Yeah, I mean, I always found him the most irritating man on television, that lovable Londoner act, the chirpy Cockney.
He's a baffling presence, isn't he? He's a fruit and veg man. He's made his career go for 20 years. Was suddenly appearing on more and more BBC shows, behaving in this really odd fashion. He can't do charm naturally. He has this strange version of bonhomie, which just makes you go, "Ooh, back off, mate."
Yeah, you're right. You know, when I was doing your job, you know, when I was TV critiquing and having to watch all of this, I always thought, you know, this is just my view. It doesn't mean I'm right, but I've got to stress this. But I always thought, this guy's a wrong 'un. There's something wrong about this guy. It's something kind of forced and contrived. You know, going up to a contestant, "Why MasterChef?" You know, and then they go, "Well, I've always wanted to be a cook." You know, it's sort of theatrically over the top. And you thought, I always thought, what is the real man behind this obvious false act? What is he? You know, because I don't think we ever found out on MasterChef or Inside the Factory, although what we're hearing now, allegedly, is that people on these shows did find out what he was all about.
Fame is a very dangerous thing, as you well know, Kevin. If you start out as a little jerk and get famous, you will become a massive jerk. That's the thing. And you do wonder whether that is what's happened here. It has really gone to his head. And especially being on the BBC, in high-profile shows, you can start to think you're an almost godlike, untouchable figure.
Yeah. You see, I think that his defence, and by the way, at the weekend when he came out and made that video about middle-class women of a certain age, which, by the way, I probably shouldn't say this, but I thought it was quite funny, but it was an extremely ill-advised move on his part.
Yeah.
Because middle-class women have got every right to be offended or traumatised by that kind of behaviour as any other kind of woman. But the way he's tried to frame it is, "I'm a working-class bloke. I come from a different world. You know, if you want to work with chirpy Cockneys, lovable Londoners, you'll find that this is the way we behave." No. This isn't about working class men or chirpy Cockneys. This is about Gregg Wallace and Gregg Wallace's personality.
Yeah, exactly. When everyone's in a corner now, you don't get the facts back off them. They play the card that they can. And his is the working class guy. And he's right in as much as being a working class guy on the BBC is a very rare thing. They must have thought he was one of the most exotic species they'd ever come across in W1. Oh, Craig, he's so authentic, you know.
Yeah, he's working class, but he's very nice.
He swears and everything.
Yeah. Well, the BBC usually has about one sort of pet working class person, you know, working, and once they get into them, they put them on every other show. And Gregg Wallace certainly suffered from that, or profited from that syndrome, earning £500,000 a year, probably more. But what about the way the BBC has reacted? What on earth is this about? We are cancelling the Christmas special, but we're going to carry on screening MasterChef The Professionals. What's that about?
It's weird, isn't it? It's just this classic BBC fudge. We either need to do one thing or they need to carry on with everything or get rid of everything, but instead we're left in this sort of halfway house. What sort of message does that send out? We think he might be guilty, but we're not sure. So
we'll keep one programme on and get rid of the other one. Perfect solution.
We've had a look at the Christmas special and it's garbage, so that can go.
Mind you, I hate, but I mean, it's a long time since I bothered to watch any of them. I don't mind it as a programme. It's very repetitive, rigid format, but it's something about it. But I don't like MasterChef The Professionals at all. Loads of people who work in pubs, who want to work in the Ritz, who turn out to be worse than the amateurs, you know.
The only one I really watch is the celebrity one.
Yeah.
Because it's actually quite telling how much they need it.
Yeah.
And there's something wrong about Kirsty Walk actually being on a celebrity cooking show in the first place. Why do these people need it?
I don't know.
It's just the love of the spotlight. I just need to appear on a cookery show.
Yeah. I mean, but one thing we can rest assured of here, and by the way, of course, you know, for different reasons, we've got the same syndrome here with the BBC, haven't we? Don't forget the BBC, as you say, they're now going, yeah, we've been very transparent and open. We're even leading the 10 o'clock news on it. Yeah, but you didn't break the story, did you? The Telegraph.
No.
The Telegraph broke the story.
All these BBC stories are always broken by the written press.
Yeah.
And they're always caught on the hop. And no matter how many rumours or stories that must be going around about these people, and suddenly they run around like headless chickens, and you find complaints going back years. What happened to them? They say the procedure is robust. I just think it's baffling, and even the people that wrote it probably don't understand what the procedure is.
Yeah, but for different reasons, right? You've had, of course, Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris, Hugh Edwards, and now Gregg Wallace. Now, you know, I'm not necessarily lumping him in with the rest of them, but the syndrome is the same. The BBC, we know, were getting complaints about Gregg Wallace something like 14 years ago. They've had a series of complaints. They've done nothing about it. They've kept the secret of the big male star, just like they kept Jimmy Savile's secret, just like they kept Rolf Harris's secret, just like they kept Hugh Edwards' secret. They've done it again. They're never going to learn, are they?
No, we will be back here this time next year having a very similar conversation, I should imagine.
Yeah, indeed. When obviously Gregg Wallace isn't going to go back to MasterChef, it's a valuable franchise. The BBC will keep it. So who in a wheelchair do you think will replace him?
It could just be about anyone. You could pick someone off London Bridge and they do just as good a job, I'm sure.
Well, we could do it, couldn't we? We've perfected his voice.
He's like, oh, I love puds, you know me.
That is lovely. That is lovely.
That is.
The buttery biscuit melting with the cream. That is absolutely lovely. I love a pud, I do.
You can do that.
2 minutes. You got 2 minutes. Oh, God. Yeah, but he'll go. But they'll carry on with the show, won't they? And one last point, Ali. What did you think today of John Turrode's powerful statement of support?
Well, it's long been known that they are not friends. I don't think they even went to each other's weddings, did they? So and yet whenever it's put to them in an interview, no, we love each other. We love it. That's just a joke, you know. But clearly they didn't.
Yeah.
As so many double acts on television can't stand the sight of each other.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I think that double act has hit the buffers. We won't see that again. Ali.